My whole upbringing was around play. And when you look at the study of play, it's proven to enhance every element of your life. You don't realize it as a kid, but you just jump in, you dive in, and you kind of just almost drown in sport and play.
Yes.
And for me, I survived it. And so now my whole life is built on the premise of trying to seek and uncover the humanity in sports around the globe.
That's what makes it so interesting, because it's not, because like you said, it's not just about glorifying the game and amazing like instant replays. It's actually you're bringing out the humanitarian side of sports.
Well, think about this show, right? There's
Yes.
a beautiful camera on you, and you get to see when you smile or you frown or what emotions you go through. In football, you put on your armor before every game, you put on a helmet. And very often, broadcasters, and definitely fans, we look at players and just see them as objects or see them as numbers or see them as somebody who's a stat line. But when you take the helmet off, they're human, right?
Exactly.
And so, that's why we love soccer. You got cool hair, you got the emotional reactions. In football, I try to do in my job as a broadcaster for the Pac-12 network and beyond is take the helmet off and let you see the human that's underneath it, let alone the performer.
Exactly. And you originally were an athlete. You got a full scholarship for football at the University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I always tell my son that I still am an athlete.
Good.
But no, I'm definitely not nearly what I was able to do in my prior years. But I always wanted to play big-time college football. I think when I grew up in a tiny town of 2,500 people, we didn't have a stoplight. My mom was a refugee from the Middle East. Like, we didn't have football in like our lifeblood.
Yes.
But when I fell for it, I fell in love with the bigness of it. 5,000 people at a high school game, college football, 80,000, 100,000. And I was like, I got to take a chance at it. So I went to Pitt and said, give me a shot. They said, sure. And walked on, which means you have no scholarship. Your locker's in the back corner. Your jersey's usually too big. I remember my shoulder pads were like the size of a D lineman's. My face mask was wrong. But I wanted a chance, and they gave it to me. Played in my second game as a freshman, started as a sophomore, and kind of had that walk-on story. But it's one that has been replicated, but one everybody takes great pride in, because I think earning a scholarship in college is much more difficult than earning one in high school.
Oh my God. And you had the honor to be the coach for USC football, Trojans.
Yeah, I got to work under Coach Carroll. And Pete, to me, is not only a one-percenter as a coach, he's currently the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, so let's go and root them out of the playoffs. But I think he's a thought leader. And he took the clay that my parents developed, and he honed it. And he forced me at 22, and I met him at 19, but from 22 to 26, I was working underneath his reign at SC and develop a style, a vision, a theme, philosophy. So now, in my role as an on-air personality, much like yourself, like, you got to have a backbone, because everything isn't always going to be super easy. So you have to have something that you stand firmly on. So he made me do that work. And now, as a father and a husband, I see that paying dividends in my daily life, family life, work life. And I get how lucky and fortunate I was to have him as a mentor.
And you work so hard, and you've transitioned into so many different paths, because you went from a player to a coach to then like a host, analyst, and a director. You've done documentaries. You're also a writer. You're a New York Times best-selling author. You're number 7, right?
Yeah.
And for Win Forever, that you got to work with Pete Carroll on.
Yeah, well, I think overall, and when you come to this town, you grew up in LA, it's built on story, right? It's very easy to be cynical about Los Angeles. But to me, everybody who comes to LA, and again, I'm a kid from the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, much like many people who are in this town, I think you come here for a dream, and you can fall in love with story. I fell in love with the ocean and surfing and storytelling, not necessarily the X's and O's. The X's and O's have always been natural for me. So if I started coaching at Iowa or at Pitt or Ohio State, I'd still be coaching. I'd be rolling in that profession. But because I started here, I got to go to acting classes. I got to meet people in different professions. So you know what? I want to tell stories to the masses instead of just coach 5 quarterbacks. So every Saturday on the Pac-12 networks, we talk to a couple million versus just talking to the players that are on your roster. And I take a lot of joy and pride in that.
Well, yeah, because your show, the Yogi Roth show, you want to, because like you say, in a world where college football is dramatically celebrated, it can be forgotten that that what we are watching are just, in fact, we're watching humans.
Yeah.
It's not just glorifying the game. It's actually, you want to explore the humanity side of it.
Well, think about your job, right? If you believe in like Greek history,
yes.
If that didn't exist and conversation didn't exist and ethos, logos, and pathos didn't come out of the history
yes.
of Greek mythology, you wouldn't have a job. I look at football and say, if there wasn't a game that was created over 150 years ago, I don't have a job. And I think in the worlds that we're in, whether it's in entertainment or college football, you can think you're bigger than the game because it's about your Instagram, and it's about your story, it's about you,
Oh, yeah.
versus making it about the game. And I always remind myself that my job is to celebrate the game and coach the viewer versus say something dope, do something that makes me trend online. Like, that's not my job.
No.
My job is to celebrate the individuals playing, competing, performing, and striving to live on the edge of greatness. And sometimes you get there, and that's really fun.
Right?
Yeah, well, and it's also, I've always loved to write. My mom told me when I was 10, Yogi, you're a writer. And I was like, no, I'm going to play in the NBA. You know, but writing is my favorite craft. But what I recognized after writing a couple books is that books aren't always read and consumed in the era that we are coming into back in the day and now fully entrenched in. It's about what we're doing here. What content can you create that's visually pleasing to an audience? And I thought, well, I have connections. I know stories. Can I put them on film? And it was a new creative, competitive endeavor for me. And it's one where I've done almost 20 docs now. And I love that craft of making somebody's story that's already magnetic. Can you make it come to life on screen?
And you did that doc about your dad that you made it to the, what was it? The new, it was called Life in a Walk.
Yeah.
And you went through Portugal and Spain, and you won an outstanding achievement at the Newport Beach Film Festival.
Yeah, for me, that's probably the most catalytic moment of my life. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He didn't deal with it for a while, and then when he did, I didn't deal with it for a while, and then it kind of hit me in the face. And as a quote-unquote alpha male jock, you're taught as a child, whether it's directly or indirectly, that you can cry after a game, after a win or a loss, but you can't be emotional anywhere else. And that hit me. And I said, well, there's a lot of questions I have with my dad, let alone me processing him going through this. So I flew home and said, do you want to go for a walk? He said, sure, thinking we'd go around the block. And I gave him a plane ticket. And I said, let's go to Spain and Portugal and walk the Camino de Santiago, which is probably the most famous pilgrimage in the world. And away we went. And as a filmmaker, I was like, let's tell a story, even if it's just for my kids in the future. And every day we would walk about 15 to 20 miles, and we'd talk about a different decade in his life. When I came back, the trailer was for us. I put it online, and all of a sudden I heard from so many people in that alpha sports world, USA Today, Men's Health, ESPN, et cetera, saying, dude, Yogi, let's talk about this, because I feel the same way. And then the film took on a life of its own. It's been played all over the globe. And I think all it is number one, a great tribute to my dad, and I hope a catalyst for people when they watch it with a loved one or a parent or a child to say, you know what? We got other questions we should ask each other. So for me, it changed me. I think that moment led me to my wife and my family. Like, it just shifted me and my emotional intelligence.
And you actually said that football led you to your wife.
Yeah.
Because you met your wife at a game.
Totally. Yeah, you do your homework, man. I was actually at Stanford in San Jose State visiting their staffs, and one of the coaches was like, why don't you stay one more night and we'll go out and have a couple drinks, have dinner, have a good time. I said, sure. And the next day, I walked onto a plane, and I made that turn, as we all do. You say hi to the flight attendant, you take that hard right turn. And I was like, oh, damn, I'm sitting next to you? Like, this is going to be awesome. And credit Amy for having her headphones in and reading Fast Company. And I was like tapping her on her shoulder, hey, how you doing? She said, good. Put it right back in. I had to go again. I was like, you heading home? She goes, yep. Put him back in. And it took the third time where I said, hi, my name is Yogi. What's your name?
I'm happy you did that.
And I got a chance. And
good.
Here we are with a full-on family now.
And for your TED Talk, what was so great about it is that I'm like, not only did you teach, but you also set out to protect student athletes.
Yeah.
So you really do care about, the people involved. It isn't just about the touchdowns for you that makes you love the game.
It can't be. I mean, sports is the greatest drama. I mean, you can drive around the corner here in Hollywood and sit in any writer's room, and they could not create the drama that exists in sports. That's real. And I feel as though the hype around sports at times can cross over, or now more often than not, cross over into BS. And the individuals that are dealing with that hype or receiving that hype, they're living in a world that isn't real. And what happens? Then when the reality meets Instagram, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, they increase. I got a note from a young man last night on social media around, hey man, I struggle with depression because of the hype around him and his game didn't mirror the reality of his game. So I feel as though it's my job when I talk to young men, and I talk to them with the Elite 11 that you referenced, top quarterbacks in the country. I make sure that we teach emotional intelligence and teaching them some tools to have the capacity to deal with their thoughts. And our staff is as good as anybody in the country at football, and I think as good as anybody at developing athletes back to almost being humans because of what social and the coverage around this great game has become. Our only job is to be where our feet are, is to be grounded in real principles and show up fully present for the next moment, the next moment, the next moment. And like Pete has taught me, if you can be uncommonly consistent, it means that you've got an uncommon strength and hold on what you stand for. So for me, whether the executives change at all these places, of course that can impact your job and your family and your financial wealth, but it shouldn't change your performance.
No.
You know, and that's to me when we get in trouble. If I tried to be Stephen A. Smith, to be the loudest guy in the room, or Paul Feinbaum, the loudest guy in the room, it would work for a couple weeks, but that's not me.
That's not you.
It would
Being
destroy my
yourself.
relationships.
So just being yourself is allowing you to work. You're not pushing, because a lot of people when they perform, they try to push.
Yeah.
They push. They try to what is it? I can't, like, they try to like eat the film.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's. You have to be yourself, but you got to know yourself. And it's a constant process for me, my job is to master my voice, right? So I can know when I have an inflection in it, when I want to say a certain story, have true command of it. And that's a lifelong journey.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to be aware of it versus, think about it, as a youngster, you could be like, I want to be Ryan Seacrest. If you try to copy that, you're in trouble, right? Like it's just not going to run out. Just his hair, exactly
His
right.
hair.
We've all
Both
been
our
inspired
hairs.
by his hair.
We've all been inspired by his hair. And so when you deal with movies, you want to highlight the stories that provokes audiences to give back to their community through the power of connection. Not just because you're very selfless, it seems, in everything that you do. You're so focused on the other person, and I think that's what creates other people to want to work with you.
Well, as an athlete,
Yeah.
you're about the team or you're not. So I think for me, what's cool about sport, right? This show, your team is backstage, your team is editing it.
You're the
your
MVP
team is
right now.
But your team is also
Yes.
the people listening, or your tribe is a phrase that I like to use. And how do we build that? And if you think about it, if you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, who are those individuals? And if the people watching your content are hopefully a reflection of some of those traits, then you're in good company. So for me, when it's creating content on the Pac-12 networks or my own channels or whatever it is, it's about leaning into what moves me. And I hope that the audience around me or the work that we do among the small team that I work with is like, what's guiding conversation? What do people want to talk about right now, right? Do they want to talk about top quarterbacks in the country? Cool, we can ride with that. But do we want to dive deeper into that and talk about the anxiety and depression that you deal with at that position? Do we want to talk about handling the fame at that position? I think those things are reminders that, granted, we see highlights on SportsCenter and ESPN every day, but the people creating those highlights also have a heartbeat. And I just think I get greater joy, and I think it's more fun. It's got greater depth and breadth to just peel back a couple layers. And look, I'm not the best in the world at it. I'm always picking the brains of the Tom Rinaldis of the world, of the people that are perceived that. But I'm just trying to go to work and kind of be in beta and just continue to work at it and soak up as much joy as possible in the process.
Do you think you continue to work at it because of your genuine love for the game? Is that what it really comes down to, is that you absolutely love football?
I love sport.
Sports.
I love what, I mean, football is my expertise.
Oh yeah, because you were also dealing with volleyball too, right?
Yeah,
on, on ESPN,
yeah,
was it?
Yeah, we had some fun with that on it was TNT or Turner. But
yes.
To me,
Entertainment Tonight, right?
But I believe in the phrase, we all speak ball. I believe in the power of play. I believe that if you and I rolled into East LA or Southeast Asia or East India, we can roll with the ball. And I do this on my trips.
You did. You went to India.
Yeah, wherever I go, I've been to 30 plus countries, I bring a ball and one bag. And to me and you throwing a Frisbee can create a dialogue and a conversation. Exactly. There's a power of play to that. So I'm in love with that. Like, I love play. I love the power of sport. I love the humanity in sport. And I call it sport adjacent. The sport gets you there, but the story keeps you there. And that to me is a huge part of who I am. And it took me a while to recognize that versus fight it. Now I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this film. I want to do this show. versus like what speaks to you?
Yes.
What makes you feel alive and light up that inner flame?
Well, yeah, because like as an actor, my teacher talks about how even acting is a competitive sport.
Yeah.
Trying to win, you and the person you're competing with one another, and that's what sports is, just life.
Yeah, well, I push back on your teacher. I would say, and bring this to class if you want.
Yeah.
You look at the word compete, right?
Yes.
You pulled it up on your smartphone or whatever you want to use right now. The Latin root of the word says to strive together. The current version of it says to strive against. So somewhere over the course of time, it's been manipulated. So I would argue it's not you versus me if we're reading for the same rule of the guy with the flippy hair, right? It's about you coming and maximizing your opportunity for your performance. It'll allow you to quiet your mind and have a better performance because you really don't give a rip about what I do. And I could care less what you do. In fact, I want to champion you. Hey man, I hope you crush it today in your audition because I know I'm gonna, and whoever gets it, gets it. And that to me is a freedom where you can cut it loose and let it rip and perform on a big stage versus, oh shit, somebody's here from the LA Times, somebody, big producers in the room, or now there's 30 people and they're testing. It doesn't matter.
No.
But that requires work.
So when you were coaching for USC, you weren't, I'm guessing now, you weren't the type of coach that was just always about winning. That wasn't the thing for you, right? That wasn't the main goal always.
Well, Pete's book, the one that we co-wrote that you referenced, is called Win Forever. And at first you think like, so it's always about winning.
Yeah.
But no, it's about competing to be your best over the long period of time.
Yes, forever.
And if you do that, you can do it
legacy.
forever. If you study performance, right, you can study, I would bet the same as in acting. Somebody that comes off an Oscar-winning performance, is their next performance special? I would bet it's a dip because they're trying to live up or recapture what they did. In sports, teams usually don't repeat as champions. It's so hard to do. That's why Pitt was magical, or Clemson right now is magical. What they're doing is extending their time to be an elite performer based on the principles, not based on the goal of winning. If the goal is to walk in and win a title, bro, you got no chance to sustain that success. It's too hard because it becomes an exhale game or an exhale audition. I got through that. Versus, hell yeah, I got to do that.
I got to do that. Yes, yeah. Well, because sometimes I get annoyed because I'm like paying for acting class, and my friend's like, you get to pay for acting class.
Right on.
You get to do this, even though you may not be making a ton of money in the moment. You get the opportunity to do it.
Well, you get to the essence of what you want.
Yes.
One of my favorite phrases is form versus essence. The form is you're an actor. The essence of it is you get to perform, you get to play, you get to read, to make a character come to life. So that form, if it's $1 million of film or $10 at the door because you're doing it at a local playhouse, it really shouldn't matter, right? You're either competing or you're not. And again, competing to me is to strive together versus strive against.
Striving together.
That's a commitment, you know, and that's a challenge because we all see everybody else's life flashing before our eyes on our phone. But that's the discipline, that's the practice, that's the mindfulness. That's all the things that I think I've learned through sport, or I take acting classes as well, through the performance method of like, okay, what's my job in a scene? To listen like my life depends on it. Not for me to sound the loudest or be the most, to be the greatest performer. My job is to listen and connect and be as human as I possibly can be in the scene. Just like today, we've never met, but the idea is to be as human as I can as we sit down for the course of the show.
Humanity of it, right?
Hello, good morning. Hey, Mr. Munoz, we need you back up here. Come on now. We ain't gonna let you get away with just a couple minutes. I mean, let's be real. The Bengals, my man, are in the Super Bowl. I feel like Cincinnati's here in LA right now.
They are, they're in the Super Bowl. Tell you what, the whole city of Cincinnati is going crazy. Great sports town, and I'm thrilled to see that.
I love that. I feel like there's somebody that might have something to say about that. Is Jackie Slater in the house?
Oh,
I think he is. He's somewhere around here.
Whoa, wait. What's going on? What's all this doggone bingo talk going on here? We're in LA.
Where's he at?
Wait a minute.
Oh, there it is, Jackie Slater. Give it up for the Hall of Famer. There's no way it's all Bengals.
We are in LA, aren't we? That's what I thought. What's all this doggone bingo talk, man? Huh? Where are the Rams fans? The Rams fans in the house? All right, that's the Rams fans. All right, see, I don't want you to be. I don't want you to be confused, my friend.
I would think we're in LA that this roof would have come off when you said that. But
Well,
that was
it did. One more time. How about all those fans?
That's better.
This is so good. Two of the best in the history of the game, right here representing the Bengals and the Rams. And what a weekend we have here together. I'm so excited. And to hear you two backstage, it was absolutely fascinating. So I got to ask for both of you. You've been here a couple years ago. The Rams were there. It's been a minute for the Bengals. You nervous? How you feeling?
I'm not nervous. You know why? I don't have to mess with Aaron Donald.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not nervous at all. No, I'm excited. My whole philosophy, I can't control things. If I was playing, might be a different story, but I'm just going to sit back and just pray for those Bengals offensive linemen.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot of reason to be praying. The Rams, Anthony and I both, we spent our lives, our professional lives trying to deal with people like Aaron Donald and Von Miller, and it's a very difficult thing to do. And as I look at Anthony's offensive line there in Cincinnati, it dawned on me just about a month ago, not 6-8 weeks ago, but about a month ago, that offensive line of theirs gave up 9 sacks. And I'm thinking to myself,
Jackie, wait.
Go ahead.
So I just have one question. If Matt Stafford was sacked 9 times, would he throw for a 350?
No, see, this is what concerns
and win a game?
This is what
the following game, 1 sack. So they adjusted and come on. Wait, I just want to say, I grew up in LA. No longer live here. I took the glass. Jackie didn't grow up in LA, now he's wearing the shades.
Hey, the sun never sets on the cool.
Oh, he's a star, baby. He's a star. All right, real quick, we got a prediction. I know you both will be there.
Well, I think the Rams are going to beat them by 14 points.
Ooh. I'm saying 28-24. Who they?
Very much. Oh, that is so good. That is so good, Anthony. We'll see you again. We're going to be talking about the Trojans and the Bruins a little bit in this show. I see some great Trojans and Bruins here in the stands as well. Thank you all for coming. This is an absolute blast to be a part of this event. And the Super Bowl, as we all know now, has officially come to Hollywood. Yes. And LA, as you know, is ready for a starring role. Now, I was a part of the LA football scene back in the day on Pete Carroll's staff at the height of the USC glory days. And what the Rams are doing now reminds me of those days. And it's so exciting to see what this team, this amazing stadium, Sean McVay, have done to energize this city. And if you know LA, and Jackie does with the Shades, right? The standard for excellence is extremely high. And when a team meets that moment, it's simply awesome. Now, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Who Dey, have done the same thing, but halfway across the country. And the Bengals' work ethic and demeanor reflects that of the city of Cincinnati. And this is part of what makes football so great. It can capture the heartbeat of a city and its people. And who wouldn't be captivated by the NFL and its postseason this year? Overtimes, last-second field goals, upsets. We've seen great football games, and I think tomorrow is going to be the exact same thing. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see somebody win with a last-second field goal, and I know that wasn't the prediction from either of those two greats. But there's so many storylines in this amazing game. It's the first time in the history of the NFL the two coaches under the age of 40 will face off against each other in the Super Bowl, and they're boys. Zach Taylor was on Sean McVay's staff with the Rams in 2017 and 2018. And McVay is not your average football coach, for real. Take a quick look at this. So good. That clip never gets old. So we have the savant on one sideline and like the fashion plate on the other. Have you seen the swag and style on Joe Burrow? I mean, check out some of these images. I mean, what are we going to get tomorrow? Clearly some unique looks. Anthony, you can get some shades from Joe, maybe, who knows? But look, none of you came here just for a breakfast and some laughs. You came here to be inspired, and you came to the right place. And when players talk about dreams, of course, they talk about winning the Super Bowl, but they also talk about receiving honors like the Bart Starr Award. This award is aspirational for those playing and inspirational for those watching. Why? Because it's about the kind of person that you are. Today we get to celebrate the man that this award was named for and the man who earned the responsibility to live up to that standard. Now, Bart Starr grew up in the segregated South. He was drafted by the Packers in the 17th round. Most thought he wasn't big enough or athletic enough to make it. Well, he went to the state of Wisconsin and won 5 NFL championships. But to a man, those who played with him and against him said that yes, he was a great player, but he was an even greater teammate and greater man. 56 years later, the same things are being said about our award recipient this year. Russell Wilson transferred from North Carolina State to the state of Wisconsin and that university and led his team to the Rose Bowl right here in LA. He's also 5'10". And people also said that you weren't big enough to be great, to be special, to be among the football giants, but here, Russell, you stand. I can recall my old boss, Pete Carroll, calling me after they drafted Russ. And he said, "Yo, about 10:30 at night, there's something about this young man. Every day he gets more and more awesome. He just has it." Well, Bart Starr had it too. Both transcendent men we're honoring today. And look at what both men represent. Overcoming the odds, working harder than those around them, leadership, character, maybe a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. Okay, maybe a massive chip on the shoulder. And many of us here today can relate. We get up every day and we get after it, wondering if any of it makes a difference. What is our impact? Is our purpose impacting others? Is our vision inspiring others? Well, my hope and our hope as a collective this morning is that you take one thing away from our time together that might inspire you. Something from one of these men. Something that maybe can make your team better, whatever form that team is in. So for the next 90 minutes or so, lock in, have a blast. After all, it's the Super Bowl in LA.